From
the Rural Independent Group.
Thank you very much. Taoiseach, I'll spare you any advice on Brexit, and I know the summit tomorrow will be dominated by it, but you have enough wise fellows telling you what to do, I'm sure. But I do think, Taoiseach, it's important that we put some other issues back on the table, as my two previous deputies have as well. And, Taoiseach, I want to talk about the fact that the corporate capture of the EU and its nation governments has rarely been so evident, and the rationale for our decisions in terms of foreign policy have scarcely been so utterly and transparently false in many ways. Ireland, like in so many regressive policy areas, from failing on global warming mitigation to robbing the global south through our tax haven operations, when it comes to global economic policy and foreign policy, we leave much to be desired. Our positions on Iran and Venezuela are frankly insane, and you would think we would learn something from the disasters of Iraq, Afghanistan and Libya. The formula is a familiar one. Former colonies, who as a result of colonisation, have the majority of their economic activity centred around one commodity, such as oil, minerals, sugar or whatever it is. Right. Some of these countries elect leaderships to try and stop the cheap acquisition of these commodities to corporations and businesses in the global north. But more often than not, the powerful fight back. Chile is a perfect example. The democratically elected Allende nationalised the copper sector in July 1971. Telecommunications giant ITT, Pepsi-Cola and the copper monopolies put pressure on the US government to protect their financial interest. Sanctions were imposed. CIA Director Richard Helms said that he wanted to make the economy scream in Chile and that he was not concerned about the risks involved. The CIA made contact with elements of the military seen to oppose Allende, and on September 11, 1973 helped them to overthrow the democratically elected government, installed the brutal dictator Pinochet instead, and along with plenty of US economic advisers, and restored the flow of cheap natural resources back to the private sector in America. The ongoing coup attempted in Venezuela has been taking a similar shape, Taoiseach. We have spoken about it, and as Deputy Daly pointed out, we really regret the position that you took with Guaido, and we think it's a serious mistake. It's totally in breach of international law. It has no standing in international law, the position that the EU and your support gave to Guaido. It doesn't stack up. Since the Bolivarian Revolution came to power initially in '98, the US have fought constantly to overthrow that regime, constantly and relentlessly, and they have undermined something terrible. Idris Jazari, the UN Special Rapporteur, speaking on the negative impact of unilateral coercive measures in relation to the sanctions, has said that the US led sanctions against Venezuelans state-owned oil company, and the crushing new sanctions that restrict access to food and medicine are killing Venezuelan citizens, starving others, and that it is women and children that suffer most. These sanctions are illegal under international law, and our support for them is the perpetration of economic violence against the people of Venezuela. Taoiseach, we have to play a different role. We should be working with governments who want peace, who are not violently expansionist in their foreign policy, who do not go around the world exploiting whatever they can for their own financial benefit. We have to play a different role, and we can, Taoiseach. We can be a neutral voice. I know it's difficult, but I think our voice can be very significant. Likewise, for the life of me, as Richard was pointing out, I mean, the Israelis, not in our lifetime, have they behaved so poorly like with the Palestinians. The plight of the Palestinians probably hasn't been as bad, not for a number of years anyway. And how little the EU is doing about it, how little of a stop has been put on Israel. And the Golan Heights is just another example of it. I mean, the truth is, Taoiseach, is that Israel is practicing apartheid in Israel and is carrying out genocide in Palestine. And the EU and ourselves are not doing enough. And I know, Taoiseach, you have been good on it at some times, but we need to do an awful lot more. At the weekend, a girls' school was bombed in Yemen. A girls' school. There's horrific pictures of the girls running, trying to get away from the bombing. This is a US-supported Saudi UAE coalition that's carrying out unbelievable atrocities in Yemen. And we're not doing enough about it. What's going on in Libya? My God. I mean, the place is a casino now. And there's not only suffering and madness in the place. All because all started with a NATO intervention. And unfortunately, we supported it. I mean, even if you're a vice in the wilderness, Taoiseach, when you go to Europe and go to your foreign affairs meeting, even if you're a vice in the wilderness against them, I think it means a lot for you to speak truth to those powers. It means an awful lot, and I know you can have a positive impact.
Thanks, Deputy.